My wife said, "I need a break to figure myself out. No contact." Then her sister tagged her in family vacation photos with her lover. I respected her journey, shipped all her belongings to her parents' address, and changed my relationship status to single when she finally called, ready to talk. You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and the main character is about to get absolutely wrecked by some plot twist? That moment where you're screaming at the screen, "Don't go in there, you idiot." Well, turns out I was both the guy yelling at the screen and the Tuesday. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday. It's like the universe's way of saying, "Hey, you thought Monday was bad? Hold my beer." I was standing in our kitchen, the same kitchen where Clara used to burn toast every morning while humming some indie song I'd never heard of, watching her arrange her face into what I can only describe as therapist chic. You know the look. Calm, collected, like she'd been practicing in the mirror for weeks, which, knowing Clara, she probably had. "I need a break," she said. And I swear to God, she delivered it with the same tone you'd used to ask someone to pass the salt. Like it was no big deal. Like she wasn't about to drop a nuclear bomb on 6 years of marriage and call it self-discovery. Now, I'm not exactly what you'd call a genius, but I'm not completely brain dead either. When your wife stands there looking like she's about to deliver a TED Talk about finding herself, you know you're about to get royally screwed. But did I see it coming? Hell no. I was too busy being the supportive husband, the guy who brought her coffee in bed and listened to her complain about her coworkers like it was my damn job. "No contact," she continued, and I felt my stomach drop somewhere around my ankles. I need to figure myself out. Figure herself out, right? Because apparently 6 years of marriage wasn't enough time to figure out who Claire Morrison was. Apparently all those late-night conversations where she told me her dreams and fears were just practice rounds. The real Clara, the one worth knowing, was apparently locked away in some secret vault that could only be opened with a hefty dose of space. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, but not in a dramatic movie moment kind of way. More like when you're walking down the street minding your own business and some construction worker drops a brick from the 15th floor. Sudden, brutal, and completely out of nowhere. 6 years of marriage, 6 years of building something together, and she wanted to reduce it all to a pause button like we were some Netflix show she could come back to later when she felt like it. I asked the question every guy asks in this situation, even though we all know the answer is going to be, is there someone else? She denied it. Of course, they always deny it. It's like marriage destruction 101. Step 1, claim you need space. Step 2, act like the other person doesn't exist. Step 3, gaslight the hell out of your spouse when they ask the obvious questions. Clara had apparently been studying the playbook because she delivered her denial with just the right amount of hurt feelings and indignation. "It's not about anyone else," she said, and I almost laughed. Almost. "I'm just lost. I don't know who I am anymore." Lost. The woman who could organize a dinner party for 12 people with 2 hours' notice, who never forgot an anniversary or a birthday, who had a 5-year plan color-coded in 3 different planners. That woman was lost. The same woman who'd spent the last year talking about redecorating the guest bedroom and maybe getting a dog was suddenly having an identity crisis that required radio silence and a complete abandonment of everything we'd built together. But here's the thing about being a decent human being. Sometimes it makes you do incredibly stupid things, like believing your wife when she's obviously lying through her teeth. Like respecting someone's journey when that journey is clearly leading straight to another man's bed. Like nodding along when every instinct in your body is screaming that something's wrong with this picture. So I forced myself to nod. I actually nodded like a bobblehead doll with a psychology degree. I told myself I'd be the supportive husband, the understanding partner, the guy who respects his wife's need for personal growth. Even though my gut was doing gymnastics that would make an Olympic athlete jealous, I played the part of the evolved modern man who totally understands that sometimes people need to find themselves. I understand, I said, and I'm pretty sure I even managed to sound sincere. Take all the time you need. Inside, though, inside was a different story. Inside, there was a storm brewing that would make Hurricane Katrina look like a light drizzle. Every alarm bell in my head was going off like we were under attack, but I ignored them all because that's what good husbands do, right? They trust their wives. They support their partner's personal growth. They don't ask too many questions when something smells fishier than a tuna cannery. In July, I watched her pack a bag, just a small one, like she was going away for a long weekend instead of nuking our marriage. She moved around the bedroom we'd shared for 6 years like she was already gone, like she was just collecting props from a movie set. Her favorite sweater, the one I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago. The book she'd been reading with my bookmarks still stuck in the pages. Little pieces of our life together stuffed into a suitcase like they didn't mean anything. I'll stay with my sister for a while, she said, not looking at me. Just until I figure things out. Lydia. Of course, she'd stay with Lydia, Clara's younger sister. The one who thought marriage was just an elaborate way to ruin your 20s. The same Lydia who posted every moment of her life on social media like she was documenting a scientific expedition. If Clara wanted privacy for her soul-arching journey, staying with Lydia was like hiring a gossip columnist as your therapist. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I helped her carry the bag to her car, our car, the one we bought together last spring because her old Honda was making sounds like a dying whale. I kissed her goodbye on the cheek, tasting the lip gloss I'd watched her apply 1,000 times, and told her I loved her. She said it back, but it sounded different. Hollow, like she was reading lines from a script she'd already forgotten. And then she was gone, just like that. 6 years of marriage reduced to the sound of tires on asphalt and the echo of a front door closing. I stood in our driveway. My driveway now, I guess, watching the taillights disappear around the corner, and realized I was holding my breath. The storm inside me was just getting started. And I had the distinct feeling that Clara's idea of figuring herself out was going to teach me a few things about myself, too. Things I probably didn't want to know, but was going to learn anyway. Because that's how these stories always go, isn't it? The good guy gets screwed. The truth comes out in the worst possible way, and everybody learns some valuable lessons about trust and betrayal and the price of being naive. I just didn't know yet how spectacularly educational this whole experience was going to be. You ever notice how silence has different flavors? There's the comfortable silence you get with your best friend during a long car ride. The awkward silence when someone tells a joke that bombs harder than the Hindenburg. And then there's the silence that feels like it's actively trying to suffocate you. Guess which one I was dealing with. The house felt like a museum dedicated to my failed marriage. Every room was an exhibit. Here we see the couch where they used to binge-watch Netflix shows they both pretended to enjoy. Notice the coffee table still bearing the ring stains from countless Sunday morning conversations that apparently meant nothing. It was like living in a mausoleum, except I was both the visitor and the corpse. Clara's absence wasn't just noticeable, it was aggressive. It punched you in the face the moment you walked through the front door. Her shoes were gone from their spot by the entrance, the ones she'd kick off every night and leave scattered like breadcrumbs for me to trip over. I used about those shoes constantly. Clara, for the love of God, there's literally a shoe rack 3 feet away. Now, I would have given my left kidney to trip over them just one more time. The bedroom was the worst. Her perfume, some fancy French that cost more than my car payment, had completely evaporated. I'm talking gone without a trace, like it had been professionally exorcised by a team of scent removal specialists. The air smelled like nothing, which somehow managed to be more depressing than if it had smelled like a garbage truck. At least garbage has personality. Her side of the closet looked like a crime scene, but instead of chalk outlines, there were just empty hangers, swaying slightly whenever I walked by. accusatory little metal skeletons reminding me that the woman who used to complain about having nothing to wear while standing in front of enough clothes to outfit a small country had apparently found plenty to pack for her journey of self-discovery. Days crawled by like they were being dragged through molasses by a three-legged turtle. I try to maintain some semblance of normally, but normally is a two-person job when you've been married for 6 years. Cooking dinner for one person feels like you're playing house by yourself. Watching TV alone means there's nobody to argue with about whether we're watching another cooking show or if we can please, for the love of all that's holy, watch something with explosions. I respected her request for no contact, like I was following some sacred religious doctrine. No texts, no calls, no accidentally driving by Lydia's place to see if Clara's car was in the driveway. I was the poster child for giving someone space. If they gave out awards for respecting boundaries, I would have swept the categories. Best supporting husband in a marital drama, most likely to suffer in silence, outstanding achievement in pretending everything's fine. But here's the thing about being the good guy. It's exhausting as hell. Every fiber of my being wanted to call her, to demand answers, to ask her what the hell figuring herself out actually meant in practical terms. Was she meditating, taking up yoga, learning to speak French? Or was she just avoiding the conversation where she'd have to admit that she'd fallen out of love with me sometime between our last anniversary and last Tuesday? The silence in the house grew heavier with every meal I ate alone. Breakfast was the worst. Clara used to be one of those insufferably cheerful morning people, the kind who would bounce around the kitchen like a caffeinated squirrel while I shuffled around like a zombie extra from The Walking Dead. She'd chatter about her dreams from the night before, her plans for the day, some articles she'd read about the benefits of drinking warm lemon water. I used to tune her out half the time, grunting responses while I stared at my phone and tried to remember how to be human before 10 a.m. Now I'd give anything to hear her ramble about her weird dreams or her latest health kick. The kitchen felt like a tomb where joy had gone to die. I'd make my coffee, just 1 cup instead of 2, and sit at our table, my table, listening to the clock tick and wondering if this was what purgatory felt like. Lunch wasn't much better. She used to text me from work, usually something ridiculous like a photo of her sad desk salad with a caption that said, "Living my best life," or a complaint about how Karen from accounting was micromanaging the office supplies again. I'd gotten so used to those random interruptions that my phone felt broken when it stayed silent for hours at a time. Dinner was the grand finale of pathetic. I'd cook something simple, pasta, a sandwich, whatever required the least amount of effort, and eat it while scrolling through my phone, trying to find something, anything, to distract me from the fact that I was having a romantic dinner with my own reflection in the darkened window. 2 weeks into this exercise in masochistic self-restraint, I was scrolling through social media like the glutton for punishment I apparently was. Facebook had become my new hobby, which is probably the most depressing sentence I've ever written. I was that guy now, the one who refreshes his feed every 5 minutes, hoping for some digital crumb of human interaction. That's when I saw it. Lydia's post. Because of course Lydia posted it. The woman documented everything from her morning smoothie to her afternoon bathroom breaks. She had the social media restraint of a toddler with a box of crayons and a freshly painted wall. At first, I almost scrolled past it. Some generic vacation, sandy beaches, umbrella drinks, the kind of performative happiness that makes you want to throw your phone across the room. But something made me stop. Maybe it was masochism. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was that little voice in the back of my head that had been whispering, "Something's not right," for 2 solid weeks. I clicked on the photos. Lydia grinning at the camera with a drink that had enough fruit in it to count as a full meal. Some guy I didn't recognize flexing next to a palm tree like he was auditioning for a protein powder commercial. A group shot of what looked like a family reunion, everyone's arms around each other like they were posing for a Christmas card from hell. And then I saw her Clara, my wife. the woman who was supposedly soul-searching and figuring herself out.
She was sitting in a beach chair that probably cost more than our mortgage payment, wearing sunglasses I bought her for our anniversary last year. She looked relaxed, happy, tan, like she was having the time of her life. But that wasn't the part that made my blood turn to ice water. The part that made my breath catch in my throat like I'd been sucker punched was the hand. Another hand, a man's hand, interlaced with hers like they'd been doing it for years. Not a woman searching for clarity, not someone lost and confused and needing space to figure out her life. Just a woman who had already made her choice and was living her best life with some random dude while I sat in our empty house eating sad pasta and respecting her journey. The betrayal was so casual, so matter-of-fact that it actually took my brain a few seconds to process what I was seeing. It was like watching someone casually mention that the sky was green, so far from what you expected that your mind had to reboot just to handle the information. You know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, let me tell you, sometimes those 1,000 words are all variations of, your eye stared at that photo like it was a puzzle I could solve if I just squinted hard enough. Like maybe I was seeing things wrong and Clara was actually holding hands with a very tan, very muscular hallucination. But no, there she was in living color and high definition, looking about as lost and confused as a lottery winner on vacation. This was my wife. The same woman who'd stood in our kitchen 2 weeks ago with tears in her eyes, talking about needing space to find herself. Turns out she'd found herself all right. She'd found herself in a beach chair next to Captain Abs a lot, looking more relaxed than she'd looked in the past year of our marriage. I started studying that photo like I was a goddamn forensic analyst. Every pixel became important. Every shadow held clues. The way her fingers were laced through his. Not awkward or new, but comfortable, practiced. Like they'd done this dance before. The way she was leaning into him, her body language screaming familiarity. This wasn't some random vacation hookup. This was a woman who'd been planning her exit strategy while I was busy being the world's most supportive husband. Lydia's careless tagging was like a breadcrumb trail leading straight to my personal hell. She'd tagged the location, some fancy resort in the Bahamas that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. She'd tagged the other people in the photos, including Mr. Mysterious himself. His name was Derek. Of course it was Derek, because apparently my wife had left me for a guy whose name sounded like he should be selling protein shakes at a CrossFit gym. I clicked on his profile because I'm apparently a masochist who enjoys emotional waterboarding. Derek Rodriguez, personal trainer, motivational speaker, the kind of guy who posts shirtless gym selfies with inspirational quotes about crushing your goals and living your truth. His bio said he helped people transform their lives through fitness and mindset coaching. Well, he'd certainly helped transform my wife's life right out of our marriage and into his spray-tanned arms. The photos kept coming as I scrolled through Lydia's album like I was conducting my own personal investigation into the death of my marriage. Clara in a bikini I'd never seen before. Clearly a recent purchase for this little excursion. Clara and Derek sharing what looked like a romantic dinner, candles and everything. Clara laughing at something Derek was saying, her hand resting on his forearm like she belonged there. But here's the part that really twisted the knife. She looked happy. Not fake Instagram happy, not putting on a brave face happy, but genuinely, authentically happy. The kind of happy she used to look with me back when we first started dating and everything felt like an adventure instead of a routine. When was the last time I'd made her laugh like that? When was the last time she'd looked at me the way she was looking at Derek in these photos? I started taking screenshots like I was building a case for court, which, let's be honest, I probably was. Not that I was planning to drag this through the legal system, but a man's got to document his own destruction, right?
Evidence that I wasn't crazy, that my gut instincts weren't just paranoid delusions brought on by too much alone time and bad takeout food. My phone started buzzing with texts from friends who'd apparently seen the same photos. Because that's the thing about social media. Nothing stays private, ever. Lydia might as well have taken out a billboard on Interstate 95 announcing my wife's affair. "Dude, are you seeing this?" From my buddy Mike, along with a screenshot of Clara and Derek looking cozy by the pool. What the actual had officially hit the fan. But the text that really got me was from my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. Sweet old lady who'd lived next door for probably 40 years and had watched our whole relationship unfold from her front porch. "Honey, I saw the photos. I'm so sorry. If you need anything, you know where I am." Even the neighborhood grandma had seen my wife's betrayal on Facebook. That's when you know you've really made it. When your personal humiliation becomes community knowledge. I kept staring at the photos, looking for some sign that this wasn't what it looked like. Maybe Derek was her long-lost cousin. Maybe he was gay and they were just friends. Maybe this was some elaborate episode of Punk'd and Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out from behind a palm tree to tell me it was all a joke. But the more I looked, the more obvious it became. The way Clara's wedding ring was conspicuously absent from her finger. The way Derek's hand rested on the small of her back in that possessive way that screamed, "This woman is mine." The way they looked at each other like they shared secrets, like they had inside jokes, like they were building something together while I sat at home eating frozen dinners and respecting her journey. This wasn't a woman searching for herself. This was a woman who'd already found exactly what she wanted and was living it up while her husband played the part of the understanding spouse. She hadn't asked for space to figure out her life. She'd asked for space to enjoy her new one without the inconvenience of having to explain herself to her old one. The betrayal wasn't just in the cheating, though that was bad enough. It was in the lies. The performance, the way she'd made me feel like I was the problem for wanting to know what was going on. It was in the way she'd turned me into the villain of her story, the controlling husband who wouldn't give her room to breathe, when really I was just the idiot who believed that I need space meant something other than I need time to my personal trainer in peace. I sat there in my empty house looking at photos of my wife's new life and realized that I'd been living in a completely different reality than she had. While I was worried about our marriage, she was planning her escape. While I was trying to be supportive, she was getting cozy with Derek, the life coach. While I was respecting her boundaries, she was posting her affair on social media for the whole world to see. The worst part? She hadn't even been careful about it. This wasn't some secret affair conducted in shadows and whispered phone calls. This was public, casual, careless. Like, she didn't even care if I found out because she was already so far gone that my feelings didn't matter anymore. Here's the thing about rage. Everyone expects it. When your wife is off playing house with some muscle-bound life coach while you're home eating cereal for dinner, people expect you to lose your cover. They expect screaming phone calls, dramatic confrontations at airports, maybe some property destruction for good measure. Hollywood has basically programmed us to believe that betrayal should be met with explosive, preferably public meltdowns. But you know what? Hollywood. I had something better than rage. I had clarity. And clarity, my friends, is a beautiful, terrible thing. I didn't storm Derek's Instagram page and leave angry comments about home wreckers and protein powder addiction. I didn't book a last-minute flight to the Bahamas to crash their little love fest with a scene straight out of a daytime soap opera. I didn't even throw Clara's stuff out on the lawn like some suburban cliché. Though I'll admit the thought crossed my mind about 16 times. Instead, I did something much worse. I gave Clara exactly what she asked for. She wanted space. She was about to get enough space to park an aircraft carrier. I spent that Saturday morning doing something I should have done the day she walked out. I started packing up her life.
Every single piece of evidence that Clara Morrison had ever existed in our house was going into boxes. And I'm not talking about angry, vindictive packing where you throw around and hope it breaks. This was methodical, careful, almost surgical in its precision. I started in the bedroom because that's where the ghosts were strongest. Her jewelry box, the one her grandmother had given her for her sweet 16, went into a box lined with tissue paper. Each piece of jewelry wrapped separately, like I was preparing precious artifacts for museum storage. Her favorite necklace, the one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary when I still thought jewelry could solve relationship problems. The earrings she'd worn to our wedding, which apparently meant about as much to her as yesterday's newspaper. Her clothes came next. The dress she'd worn on our first date, the one she claimed she kept for sentimental value but never wore because it didn't fit right anymore. The sweater she'd stolen from me in college and never gave back, which had become hers through some kind of relationship statute of limitations. The pajamas she'd worn during those lazy Sunday mornings when we used to stay in bed until noon talking about everything and nothing. Each item folded perfectly, like I was working at some high-end boutique where presentation matters more than profit margins. Her books, and Jesus Christ, the woman had a lot of books, went into boxes organized by genre. Self-help books about finding your authentic self. The irony was not lost on me. Romance novels about women who left boring husbands for exciting strangers. Apparently, she'd been doing research. Cookbooks for meals she never cooked because she was too busy discovering herself at the gym with Derek. The bathroom was a minefield of memories disguised as toiletries. Her shampoo, the expensive stuff that smelled like vanilla and promises. Her face cream, the one that cost more than our electric bill because aging was apparently scarier than bankruptcy. Her birth control pills, which I guess she wouldn't be needing anymore since Derek probably had that whole situation handled. I packed it all. Every tube of lipstick, every bottle of nail polish, every hair elastic that had somehow migrated to every surface in our house. The woman had left behind enough beauty products to stock a small pharmacy, but apparently none of it was essential for her journey of self-discovery. The living room held its own collection of Clara artifacts, her books scattered across the coffee table, bookmarked pages marking places she'd never returned to. The throw pillows she'd insisted we needed because they added personality to the space. The candles she'd bought but never lit because she was saving them for special occasions that apparently never came. Or maybe they had come, just not with me. Photo frames were the worst. Our wedding picture, where we both looked so goddamn happy it hurt to look at. Vacation photos from trips we'd taken back when we actually enjoyed each other's company. Pictures from family gatherings where Clara smiled at the camera while holding my hand. Back when that hand meant something more than a prop for social media posts. I wrapped each frame in bubble wrap like I was preserving evidence of a crime, which, in a way, I guess I was. These photos were proof that we'd once been real, that this marriage hadn't been a complete delusion from day one. We'd been happy once, genuinely happy before life got complicated and Clara decided that happiness was something you could find in someone else's arms. Each taped box felt like lifting weight off my chest, like I was literally removing the physical manifestations of my failed marriage from my life. Box after box. I was reclaiming my space, my house, my sanity. The room started to look bigger, somehow, less cluttered with the debris of someone else's abandoned dreams. But the real masterpiece was the note I wrote to accompany this care package of Clara's former life. I spent probably an hour crafting it, going through draft after draft until I found the perfect tone. Not angry, not bitter, just helpful, accommodating. The kind of note a really good friend might write when helping someone move. Clara, it began, because we were apparently back to formal names now, asked for space to figure herself out. I want to support her journey in any way I can. I've carefully packed up her belongings so she can focus on her self-discovery without worrying about her things. I hope this helps her find the clarity she's looking for. Short, sweet, and absolutely devastating in its politeness. No accusations, no anger, no drama. Just a husband being supportive of his wife's need to find herself, apparently in the Bahamas, in Derek's bed. I arranged for everything to be shipped to her parents' house because, let's face it, Lydia's apartment probably wasn't big enough for all of Clara's stuff. Plus, involving her parents felt like the right move. They deserved to know what their daughter was up to, even if she hadn't bothered to fill them in on the details of her journey. The delivery was scheduled for Monday morning, which meant Clara's little love nest vacation would be interrupted by a dozen boxes of her old life showing up on her parents' doorstep. I imagined the phone call she'd get from her mother, the awkward explanations, the sudden realization that her nice, quiet affair had just become a family matter. No confrontation required, no dramatic speeches or ultimatums. Just the simple act of giving someone exactly what they asked for, delivered with a bow on top and a smile that never reached my eyes. You want to know what real power looks like? It's not screaming or throwing things or making a scene that ends up on someone's Instagram story. Real power is changing one little detail on your Facebook profile at 11:47 p.m. on a Sunday night and watching the entire world lose its collective. I was sitting in my living room now, since Clara had apparently decided our furniture wasn't compatible with her new lifestyle, nursing a beer that had gone warm while I stared at my phone. The boxes were packed, the shipping labels were printed, and Clara's entire existence in our house had been reduced to a neat stack of cardboard containers ready for Monday morning pickup. The place looked bigger already, like it had been holding its breath for weeks and could finally exhale. But something was still bothering me. Some itch I couldn't quite scratch. Some unfinished business that kept gnawing at the back of my brain like a dog with a bone. Clara was off living her best life with Derek the Wonder Trainer, posting bikini pictures and pretending she was on some spiritual quest instead of a glorified booty call vacation. Meanwhile, everyone who knew us was probably wondering what the hell was going on, why she was gallivanting around the Caribbean while I was mysteriously absent from all her social media updates. That's when it hit me. The beautiful, simple, absolutely perfect solution to my problem. I opened Facebook because apparently that's what my life had come to, conducting major life events through Mark Zuckerberg's digital hellscape, and navigated to my profile. There it was, right at the top, mocking me with its outdated optimism. Married to Clara Morrison. Married. What a joke. You can't be married to someone who's holding hands with a personal trainer in the Bahamas while telling you she needs space to find herself. Marriage implies some kind of mutual commitment, some shared understanding that you're in this thing together. What Clara and I had was more like a subscription service she'd forgotten to cancel before signing up for premium features somewhere else. My finger hovered over the edit button for about 30 seconds. This wasn't anger talking. This was mathematics, pure, simple logic. Clara wanted to be single badly enough to act single, look single, and someone who wasn't her husband. The least I could do was help her achieve her goals. One click, edit relationship status. Another click, single. And just like that, 6 years of marriage vanished into the digital ether with all the ceremony of updating your favorite movie or changing your profile picture. No lawyers, no paperwork, no dramatic confrontations, just a simple acknowledgement of reality broadcast to the world with the efficiency of modern technology. I hit save and sat back to watch the fireworks. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. Facebook's notification system went absolutely apeshit, lighting up my phone like a Christmas tree on steroids. Likes, comments, shares, private messages. It was like I'd thrown a stone into a pond and was watching the ripples spread across my entire social network. The first like came from my cousin Danny, the one who'd never liked Clara and had always been too polite to say so. His comment popped up 30 seconds later. About damn time, man. Short, sweet,
and somehow exactly what I needed to hear.
Then came the flood. My college buddy Steve, dude, what happened? You okay? My neighbor from 2 houses down, who I maybe talk to twice a year. Sorry to hear this. You're better off. My high school friend who'd moved to Portland and worked at some artisanal coffee roastery. She didn't deserve you anyway. But the real validation came from the people who knew. The ones who'd seen the beach photos, who'd been wondering what the hell was going on, who'd been waiting for me to acknowledge the elephant in the room. They didn't need explanations or context. They just needed confirmation that I wasn't completely oblivious to my own life. Finally, from my sister, followed immediately by a private message that just said, "Call me tomorrow. We need to talk." Also, her. "You're free." From my workout buddy, who'd probably been biting his tongue about Clara's gym habits for months. New chapter starts now. From my boss, which was weirdly supportive coming from a guy who usually communicated exclusively through passive-aggressive emails about quarterly reports. The comments kept rolling in, a steady stream of digital support from people I'd barely talked to in years. High school classmates crawling out of the woodwork to offer sympathy and solidarity. Work acquaintances who'd only known me as half of a couple suddenly treating me like an individual with his own identity. It was like I'd been invisible for years and had suddenly materialized as a real person with real problems that people actually gave about. But the best part? The absolute chef's kiss of social media revenge was watching the secondary effects ripple out through the network. Within an hour, Lydia had deleted every single beach photo from her Instagram and Facebook accounts. Gone. Vanished. Like Clara's Caribbean love fest had never happened. Too little, too late. Sister screenshots are forever, and the internet never forgets. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Holy dude, Clara's entire family is losing their minds right now. My wife just got off the phone with your mother-in-law. Apparently, no one knew about the beach guy." Of course they didn't. Because Clara's journey of self-discovery was supposed to be a private affair, something she could control and manage and reveal on her own terms when she was ready to break the news gently to her devastated husband. She probably had a whole speech planned, some about how she'd found herself and realized we wanted different things. And it wasn't anyone's fault, but sometimes love just isn't enough, blah, blah, blah. Instead, her dirty laundry was now flapping in the digital breeze for everyone to see. Her parents, her friends, her co-workers, they all knew now that their sweet Clara had been playing house with a personal trainer while her husband sat at home like a good little boy, respecting her boundaries and supporting her growth. The phone call started around midnight. First her mother, then her father, then what sounded like a conference call with half the Morrison family tree. I let them all go to voicemail. They wanted explanations, context, some kind of damage control for their daughter's suddenly public humiliation. But I'd already said everything I needed to say in the most concise way possible. Single. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The weight that had been sitting on my chest since Clara walked out was lifting, replaced by something I'd almost forgotten existed. Relief. Sweet, simple, uncomplicated relief. Clara had wanted a break. Well, congratulations, honey. You just got the most permanent break of your life, announced to 847 Facebook friends and counting. Ever drop a bowling ball in a swimming pool? That's what my little Facebook update felt like, except instead of water, it was splashing through the shallow end of suburban social media drama. And holy was it making waves. The ripple started fast and spread faster. By Monday morning, my phone looked like it had been possessed by some kind of notification demon. Text messages, missed calls, Facebook comments, Instagram DMs from people I hadn't talked to since high school. It was like I'd accidentally become the main character in everyone else's Monday morning entertainment. But the real fireworks started when Lydia realized what had happened. Remember Lydia, Clara's sister?
The one whose social media habits made a teenage influencer look subtle?
The woman who had single-handedly blown up Clara's secret paradise vacation by posting those beach photos like she was running a travel blog.
Well, apparently, Lydia had finally figured out that actions have consequences, and those consequences don't give about your privacy settings. I woke up Monday morning to discover that Lydia's Instagram had been scrubbed cleaner than a crime scene. Every single photo from the Bahamas vacation, gone.
The romantic beach shots of Clara and Derek looking like a discount version of a romance novel cover, deleted.
The group photos where you could clearly see my wife playing grab-ass with her personal trainer vanished into the digital void. But here's the thing about the internet. It's like that friend who never forgets anything you said when you were drunk. Screenshots are forever. And apparently half of our social circle had been busy playing digital archaeologist over the weekend.
Within an hour of Lydia's great photo purge of 2024, my phone was buzzing with messages from friends sending me saved copies of everything she tried to delete.
"Don't worry, bro," texted my buddy Jake. "I got screenshots of everything before she could cover her tracks. This Derek guy looks like he gets his tan from a bottle. By the way, my sister sent me a particularly damning photo with the caption,
Is this the same Clara who used to lecture me about the importance of marriage commitment at family dinners?
because this is holding hands with Fabio Jr. while wearing the anniversary necklace you bought her." The beautiful thing about Lydia's panic deletion was that it confirmed everything without me having to say a word. If there was nothing to hide, why the sudden digital housekeeping?
If Clara was just innocently soul-searching with a platonic vacation buddy,
Why was her sister frantically erasing evidence like she was working for the mob? But the real entertainment started when Clara's parents got involved. Apparently, my little status update had reached them sometime Sunday night, which meant they'd had approximately 12 hours to stew in confusion before the sun came up Monday morning.
Mrs. Morrison, a woman who still called Facebook the Facebook and needed help turning on her computer, had somehow managed to see every deleted photo, every screenshot, every piece of digital evidence that her precious daughter had been playing house with a guy who looked like he'd stepped off the cover of a fitness magazine. My phone rang at 7:23 a.m. Mrs. Morrison. I let it go to voicemail because I was still in my pajamas drinking coffee and enjoying the show. The voicemail she left was a masterpiece of confused parental damage control. "Hi, honey. It's Mom. It's Helen, Mrs. Morrison. I'm so confused about your Facebook thing and Lydia's photos. And Clara said she was on a family trip, but that man in the pictures isn't family, and I just don't understand what's happening. Can you please call me back? I made your favorite cookies if you want to come over and explain things." Your favorite cookies. Jesus Christ. The woman's daughter was off playing tropical vacation with her boy Toy, and she was bribing me with baked goods to explain why I'd publicly declared myself single. It would have been funny if it wasn't so Hallmark doesn't make cards for that situation. But the absolute prize went to Clara's cousin, Michelle, who apparently had missed the memo about keeping family business private. She posted on my Facebook status update, the one where I changed my relationship status with a comment that was visible to everyone. "OMG, what happened? Clara just posted a pic with some hot guy and now you're single. Did she cheat? This is crazy." And just like that, the secret was officially out of the bag and rolling down the street like a runaway shopping cart. Michelle had just announced to my entire social network, and by extension Clara's entire social network, that my wife was posting pictures with some hot guy while I was changing my relationship status. It was like watching someone accidentally set off fireworks in a dynamite factory. The comments started pouring in faster than I could read them. People who had been too polite to ask direct questions suddenly had permission to pile on with their opinions and observations. Turns out a lot of people had been thinking Clara was acting weird lately, but hadn't wanted to say anything. Funny how everyone becomes a relationship expert after the fact. "I knew something was up when she started going to the gym 5 times a week," commented my neighbor Sarah. "Nobody changes their workout routine that drastically for themselves."
She was definitely acting different at Jenny's birthday party last month, added Clara's former college roommate, kept checking her phone and smiling at texts. I thought it was weird she wasn't including you in whatever was making her so happy. That explains why she unfriended me when I asked about vacation plans, wrote my cousin Amy. I thought it was random, but now it makes sense. She didn't want anyone asking questions about her mystery travel companion. It was like watching a crowdsourced investigation unfold in real time.
People were connecting dots I didn't even know existed, sharing observations and suspicions they'd been keeping to themselves out of politeness.
Clara's carefully constructed image as the innocent wife who just needed space was crumbling faster than a cookie and milk. By noon, Derek's social media had been discovered by the internet detectives in my friend group. His Instagram was public because, of course it was. The man made his living selling his image as a fitness guru and life coach.
His recent posts were a goddamn treasure trove of evidence that made Lydia's deleted photos look subtle by comparison.
Photos of clients he was helping transform their lives, motivational quotes about leaving toxic relationships behind, and my personal favorite, a shirtless mirror selfie from 3 weeks ago with the caption, "Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is show them what they're missing." 2 weeks. That's how long it took for Clara's little fantasy vacation to crash into the reality of public humiliation and family disappointment. 2 weeks of me living my life, eating actual meals instead of sad bachelor food, sleeping through the night without wondering where my wife was or what she was doing. 2 weeks of feeling like I could breathe again, like the weight of someone else's lies wasn't crushing my chest every morning when I woke up. And then my phone lit up with her name. I was sitting on my couch again, my couch now, watching some mindless Netflix show about people who renovate houses and pretend their biggest problem is choosing between subway tile and hexagon tile. Normal people problems. Simple problems. Problems that could be solved with a credit card and a weekend at Home Depot. When I saw Clara flash across my phone screen, I'll admit my first instinct was to let it go to voicemail. Let her talk to my digital secretary and leave whatever apology or explanation she thought would fix this mess. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to hear how she was going to spin this. What possible angle could she work that would make sense of the past month? I answered on the 4th ring right before it would have gone to voicemail. Timing is everything. And I wanted her to think I'd almost decided not to pick up, which, let's be honest, I had. "Hey," she said, and me if she didn't sound exactly like the old Clara, the one I'd married. Soft, familiar, like nothing had changed. Like she was calling to ask me to pick up milk on the way home from work. Like she hadn't been playing house with Derek, the protein powder prince, while I sat in our empty house, respecting her journey. "Hey," I said back, keeping my voice neutral. Not cold, not warm, just there. Like I was talking to a stranger who dialed the wrong number, but was too polite to hang up immediately. The silence stretched between us like a tight trope. I could hear her breathing, probably sitting somewhere sunny and warm, trying to figure out how to navigate this conversation. Part of me wondered if Derek was there with her, coaching her through her lines like some kind of relationship damage control specialist. "I think I'm ready to talk," she finally said. And Jesus Christ, the audacity was breathtaking. She thought she was ready after 2 weeks of radio silence while she played Caribbean Vacation with her side piece? After letting me find out about her affair through her sister's social media addiction, after letting her entire family think I'd lost my mind for changing my Facebook status, now she was ready to talk. Talk about what? I asked. And I genuinely wanted to know, what conversation could we possibly have at this point? What words existed that could explain away the photos, the lies, the complete demolition of everything we'd supposedly built together? "Our future," she said, like she was discussing weekend plans instead of the smoking crater where our marriage used to be. I needed the break. Now I know I want to come back. And that's when I laughed. Not a bitter, angry laugh, though I probably had every right to sound bitter and angry.
this was something else. Hollow, empty. The kind of laugh you make when someone tells you a joke so bad it circles back around to being funny. The kind of laugh you make when the universe reveals just how cosmically ridiculous your life has become. She wanted to come back. The woman who'd been holding hands with a personal trainer and Instagram photos wanted to stroll back into the marriage she'd torched like nothing had happened. Like the past month had been some kind of extended spa weekend instead of a public humiliation tour sponsored by her own stupidity and her sister's social media oversharing. Come back to what? I asked, and I could hear the genuine confusion in my own voice. What exactly do you think you're coming back to? To us, she said like it was obvious. Like there was still an us to come back to our life, to our marriage. Our marriage. The same marriage she'd abandoned faster than a sinking ship. When Derek showed up with his spray tan and his life coaching, the same marriage she'd been willing to throw away for whatever midlife crisis she was working through with her boy toy in the Bahamas. Clara, I said, and her name felt weird in my mouth, like speaking a language I used to know but had forgotten. You spent the last 2 weeks posting vacation photos with another man while telling me you needed space to find yourself. What exactly did you find? The silence on her end was deafening. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to explain away the unexplainable. How do you tell your husband that you found yourself in another man's bed, but now you want to come home like nothing happened? It wasn't what it looked like, she finally whispered, and I almost laughed again. Because of course that was her opening move. The universal response when you get caught red-handed doing exactly what it looked like you were doing. Of course not, I said, and I kept my tone conversational, almost friendly. It looked like you were on vacation with your boyfriend while your husband sat at home wondering if you were okay. But I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. He's just a friend, she said, and the lie was so pathetic I actually felt bad for her. We were helping each other through some things. It wasn't romantic, right? I said, nothing says just friends like holding hands in beach photos and sharing romantic dinners by candlelight. Very platonic. Very therapeutic. I could hear her crying now. Soft little sniffles that probably used to tug at my heartstrings, but now just sounded like white noise. The tears of someone who'd gotten caught and was trying to figure out how to talk her way out of the consequences. It was a mistake, she said. A huge mistake. I was confused and scared and I made terrible choices, but I love you. I love our marriage. I want to fix this. Fix this. Like our marriage was a leaky faucet that just needed some WD-40 and a good wrench. Like trust was something you could repair with the right tools and enough determination. Like I was supposed to welcome her back with open arms because she'd finally decided I was worth settling for. You wanted a break? I said, and my voice was steady, calm, almost conversational. Now it's permanent. You know what they say about meeting your enemies on neutral ground? Well, apparently Starbucks on a Tuesday afternoon counts as neutral ground in the modern divorce playbook. Clara had insisted we meet in person because some conversations needed to happen face-to-face. Translation? She thought her big, sad eyes and trembling lip routine would work better in 3 dimensions. I got there first, ordered my usual black coffee, and picked a table near the window where I could watch the parking lot. Call it strategic positioning or call it paranoia, but I wanted to see her coming. I wanted those few extra seconds to prepare myself for whatever version of Clara was going to walk through that door. She showed up exactly on time because Clara had always been punctual. Even when she was destroying marriages, she looked different. Tanned, obviously, from her little Caribbean vacation. Her hair was lighter, probably from all that beach time she'd spent finding herself in Derek's arms. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something flowy and expensive looking that screamed, "I bought this with my affair money." But it was her expression that really got me. She walked in looking like she was attending her own funeral, all droopy shoulders and practiced vulnerability. This was Clara in full victim mode,
ready to play the part of the confused, repentant wife who'd made some tiny mistakes and just needed her husband's understanding and forgiveness.
She ordered some complicated drink that required 3 different syrups and non-dairy milk because apparently her dietary restrictions had evolved along with her relationship status. When she finally sat down across from me, she immediately launched into what was clearly a rehearsed speech. "I know you're angry," she started like she was reading from a script titled "How to Win Back Your Husband After Publicly Humiliating Him 101. I know I hurt you, and I know you have every right to hate me right now." I didn't say anything, just sat there sipping my coffee and watching her perform. She'd always been a bit of a drama queen, but this was Oscar-worthy material. The way she kept looking down at her hands, the strategic pause before each sentence, the little catch in her voice when she said, "hurt you." It was like watching community theater, except the stakes were my actual life. "But I need you to know that it wasn't what it looked like," she continued. And I almost choked on my coffee. Not from shock, but from trying not to laugh. She was really going to stick with that line, even after everything that had come out. That's when I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the photo. Not a screenshot from my phone, but an actual printed photograph. 8x10 glossy professional quality. The kind of photo you'd frame if you were proud of what it showed. It was the beach shot. Clara and Derek holding hands, her head on his shoulder, both of them looking at each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. I'd had it printed at Walgreens on my way over because sometimes you need a physical object to make your point. Digital evidence can be dismissed, explained away, minimized, but a real photograph sitting on a coffee shop table, that's harder to argue with. I slid it across the table without saying a word. Clara's face went through about 6 different emotions in the span of 3 seconds. Surprise, recognition, embarrassment, panic, and finally something that looked like resignation. Her perfectly practiced speech died in her throat, replaced by a silence so complete I could hear the barista calling out someone's order across the room. She stared at the photo like it was a bomb that might explode if she looked away. Her hands were shaking slightly, which would have been more touching if I hadn't seen those same hands intertwined with Derek's in living color. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. "Of course not," I said, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. "It looks like you found yourself in another man's arms while telling me to disappear from your life. But I'm sure there's a perfectly innocent explanation for why you're gazing lovingly into the eyes of a guy who isn't your husband while holding his hand on a romantic beach vacation." She started crying then, but not the pretty, delicate tears she used to produce during our fights. These were ugly, desperate tears. The kind that came with snot and mascara streaks and the sudden realization that your carefully constructed lies were falling apart in real time.
"It wasn't supposed to happen,"
she sobbed. And finally, we were getting somewhere close to the truth.
"I was confused and lonely, and he was there, and he listened to me and made me feel special. And I made a mistake."
A mistake. Like she'd accidentally put salt in her coffee instead of sugar. Like she'd taken the wrong exit on the highway. Like she hadn't made a conscious decision to throw away 6 years of marriage for some muscle-bound life coach who probably had inspirational quotes tattooed on his abs. "You made a lot of mistakes," I said, ticking them off on my fingers. "You lied about needing space. You lied about what you were doing during that space. You let your sister post photos of your affair on social media. You let me find out about your boyfriend through Facebook instead of having the decency to tell me yourself. That's not one mistake, Clara. That's a pattern of choices." She was full-on sobbing now, attracting stares from the other customers. A middle-aged woman at the next table kept looking over with concern, probably wondering if she should call someone. But I wasn't being cruel or loud or dramatic. I was just stating facts, laying out the timeline of her betrayal in chronological order.
"I want to fix this,"
she said between sobs.
"Please, I want to fix this. I'll do anything."
"Anything?" I asked. Will you unfuck Derek? Will you unpost those vacation photos? Will you unhumiliate me in front of everyone we know? The cruelty of it surprised even me, but I wasn't taking it back. She'd had weeks to consider the consequences of her actions. She'd had plenty of time to think about how her choices would affect me, affect our marriage, affect the life we'd built together. She'd chosen Derek and beach vacations and Instagram-worthy romance over boring old me and our boring old life. I was lost, she whispered, like that explained everything. I didn't know what I wanted. You seemed pretty clear about what you wanted when you were holding his hand, I said, pointing to the photo. You looked absolutely certain about your choices when you were posting about your perfect vacation while I sat at home wondering if you were okay. She reached for the photo like she wanted to tear it up, but I was faster. I slid it back into my jacket pocket, safe from her desperate damage control attempts. You asked for no contact, I said, standing up from the table. I gave you exactly that, permanently. She looked up at me with mascara running down her cheeks and said the words that confirmed everything I'd suspected about who she really was. But I changed my mind. Changed her mind. Like marriage was a restaurant order she could send back if she didn't like how it tasted. You ever watch a building get demolished? Not the dramatic movie kind with explosions and special effects, but the real deal. The slow, methodical kind where they remove one support beam at a time until the whole structure just collapses under its own weight. That's what happened to Clara's life after our little coffee shop chat. Except instead of construction equipment, the demolition crew was made up of disappointed family members, former friends, and the unstoppable force of small-town gossip. The news traveled faster than a wildfire in a dry forest. By the time I got home from Starbucks, my phone was already buzzing with updates from what felt like half the town. Apparently, Clara had made the rounds after our meeting, trying to do damage control with anyone who would listen. Spoiler alert, not many people were in a listening mood. Her parents were the first casualties of truth. Mrs. Morrison, the woman who used to send me birthday cards and invited me to family barbecues like I was the son she'd never had, called me that evening. Not to yell at me, not to defend her daughter, but to apologize. "I'm so sorry, honey," she said, and I could hear her crying. "I had no idea. We thought she was just having a hard time, maybe going through some kind of phase." We never imagined. I mean, we raised her better than this. The thing about good people is they take responsibility for that isn't even their fault. Mrs. Morrison was sitting there apologizing for her adult daughter's choices. Like she could have somehow prevented Clara from turning into a cheating piece of garbage by packing different lunches for her in elementary school. "You don't need to apologize for anything," I told her. "You raised her right. She chose to ignore everything you taught her." But the real kicker came when she told me about Clara's attempted family intervention. Apparently, my dear wife had shown up at her parents' house expecting sympathy and support, maybe a few weeks of being babied while she figured out her next move. Instead, she walked into what can only be described as a family tribunal. Her father wouldn't even look at her, Mrs. Morrison said. 28 years old, and he treated her like she was a stranger. When she tried to explain about Derek being just a friend and how the photos were misleading, her father just pointed to the door and told her to leave. Mr. Morrison, the man who had walked Clara down the aisle and given her away to me with tears in his eyes, had essentially disowned his own daughter over this mess. The man who still called me son, even though his daughter had publicly humiliated me, was choosing my side over hers. That should have felt good, but honestly, it just felt sad. Lydia tried reaching out too, but her apology tour was about as successful as Clara's. Turns out, when you're the person responsible for exposing your sister's affair to the entire world through your own social media stupidity, people don't really want to hear your excuses. She keeps calling me. My sister told me over lunch that week, Lydia,
She wants to explain her side and make sure I know she didn't mean for any of this to happen.
Like accidentally posting evidence of adultery as some kind of technical malfunction. The friend fallout was particularly brutal. Clara had always been one of those women who collected girlfriends like accessories, surrounding herself with other married women who would validate her choices and support her through every minor crisis. But apparently, adultery was where her support group drew the line. Jenny, who had been Clara's maid of honor and best friend since college, posted a not-so-subtle Facebook status that week. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and you have to believe them the first time. Within hours, half of Clara's social circle had liked and shared it, the digital equivalent of choosing sides, and Clara was suddenly finding herself very, very alone. But the most satisfying piece of fallout, Derek, the man himself, the protein powder prince who had helped Clara discover her true self through what I can only assume were some very educational yoga positions. My buddy Mike, who apparently had way too much time on his hands and a talent for internet stalking, delivered the update with all the glee of a sports commentator announcing a game-winning touchdown. Dude, your wife's boy toy blocked her on everything. He told me over beers that Friday. Instagram, Facebook, probably Snapchat too. The man has vanished from her life faster than a fart in the wind. Turns out Derek was one of those guys who was all about helping people transform their lives right up until those people became complicated, messy, and potentially damaging to his carefully curated brand. A married woman having a midlife crisis was exotic and exciting when it was happening in secret in the Bahamas. A publicly humiliated wife trying to drag him into her divorce drama, that was bad for business. She's been posting cryptic about fake people and learning who your real friends are, Mike continued, showing me screenshots of Clara's recent social media activity. Girl is spiraling harder than a toilet flush. And she was. Clara's Instagram, which used to be full of artfully arranged food photos and inspirational quotes about living your best life, had devolved into the kind of vague, desperate posting that screamed, "My life is falling apart and I need attention." Photos of wine glasses with captions about healing and moving forward. Sunset pictures with quotes about toxic people and new chapters. The woman who had always been so careful about her image, so concerned with how things looked to the outside world, was broadcasting her misery to anyone with a smartphone and a social media account. It was like watching someone have a nervous breakdown in real time, documented in filtered photos and carefully chosen song lyrics. But the absolute cherry on top of this Sunday came when Clara tried to reach out to our mutual friends for support. These were couples we'd hung out with for years, people who had been to our house for dinner parties and game nights, people who knew both of us as individuals and as a couple. Every single one of them chose my side. Not because I asked them to, not because I was running some kind of campaign against her, but because they'd seen the photos. They'd watched the whole thing play out on social media. They knew the truth, and the truth was pretty clear. Sarah from next door stopped by with a casserole and a hug. I never liked her, she admitted. I always thought she was a little too concerned with appearances and not concerned enough with substance. You're better off without her. Even our couple friends, the ones I thought might try to stay neutral or encourage us to work things out, were having none of it. Tom and Lisa, who we used to double date with regularly, invited me over for dinner without Clara and spent the entire evening making it clear that they considered her behavior unforgivable. Marriage is sacred, Lisa said, over dessert. You don't just throw it away because some gym rat makes you feel special. What she did was selfish and cruel, and honestly, I'm embarrassed I ever called her a friend. 3 weeks after our coffee shop confrontation, Clara showed up at my door. Our door? My door? Whatever the hell you want to call it. The door to the house where she used to live before she decided to burn down our marriage for a beach vacation with Captain Protein Shake. I was watching TV in sweatpants and a ratty old college t-shirt, eating leftover pizza straight from the box, like the sophisticated bachelor I'd apparently become when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see her standing there looking like she'd been through a wood chipper made of regret and social media backlash. She looked terrible. Not in, as she's going through a rough patch way, but in a, she's been crying for 3 weeks straight and surviving on gas station coffee and shame way. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup, and she had on the same jeans and hoodie combo she used to wear when she was sick with the flu. This was Clara at rock bottom. And apparently rock bottom looked like a suburban soccer mom who'd given up on life. I opened the door but didn't invite her in, just stood there in the doorway like I was talking to a door-to-door salesperson trying to sell me something I definitely didn't need. "Hey," she said, and her voice was hoarse-a-row, like she'd been screaming or crying or both. "Can we talk?" "We already talked," I said, keeping my voice level. "At Starbucks, remember? You explained how holding hands with Derek wasn't what it looked like, and I explained how you could go out. I was done being reasonable." "I know you hate me," she said, and the tears started immediately. "I know I destroyed everything and hurt you in ways I can't even begin to understand. But I need you to know that losing you has been the worst mistake of my life. Losing me like I was car keys or a phone charger, something she'd misplaced instead of something she'd thrown away with both hands while chasing after a guy who looked like he'd stepped off the cover of a fitness magazine. You didn't lose me," I said. "You traded me for Derek. Remember Derek? You're just a friend who helped you discover your true self through what I can only assume were some very hands-on life coaching sessions." She was crying harder now, those ugly, desperate sobs that probably would have tugged at my heartstrings 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, I was a different person. 6 months ago, I was the kind of guy who would have invited her in, made her some tea, and listened to her explain how everything was my fault. Somehow he blocked me. She whispered like this was supposed to be news to me. After everything came out, after the photos and the Facebook thing and my family finding out, he just disappeared like I never mattered to him at all. "Shocking," I said, not even trying to hide the sarcasm. A guy who makes a living convincing married women to leave their husbands turned out to be a piece of who abandons people when things get complicated? Who could have seen that coming? She looked up at me with mascara running down her cheeks and said the words that probably would have destroyed me a month ago. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me for someone who didn't even care about me. I know I don't deserve it, but please, can you find it in your heart to forgive me?" And you know what? For just a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She looked so broken, so genuinely devastated by the consequences of her own choices. The woman who had always been so put together, so concerned with appearances and social status, was standing on my doorstep looking like she'd been hit by a truck made of karma and regret. But then I remembered the beach photos. I remembered the lies, the manipulation, the way she'd made me feel crazy for asking basic questions about where my wife was and what she was doing. I remembered sitting in our empty house, respecting her boundaries while she was off playing house with another man. I remembered the humiliation of finding out about my wife's affair through her sister's Instagram account. "No," I said, and the word felt like freedom. Simple, clean, final. "No, I can't forgive you. I won't forgive you." She started sobbing harder, reaching for me like she wanted to hug me or grab onto me or somehow physically prevent me from walking away from this conversation. But I stepped back, putting the threshold of my house between us like a line she couldn't cross. "Please," she begged. "I'll do anything. I'll get counseling. I'll make it up to you. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm sorry. Just give me another chance." "You had a chance," I said.
You had 6 years of chances.
You had a chance every day you woke up next to me and chose to stay faithful to our marriage. You had a chance every time Derek texted you and you could have told him you were married and not interested. You had a chance to tell me the truth instead of lying about needing space. You used up all your chances. She was crying so hard now that she could barely speak, but she managed to choke out one last desperate plea.
I love you. I've always loved you. That never changed.
If that's what your love looks like, I said, I'll pass. I started to close the door, but she put her hand against it, trying to keep it open.
What am I supposed to do now?
She asked. And for the first time in this whole conversation, she sounded genuinely lost instead of just manipulative. I don't know, I said, and I meant it. Figure it out. You're good at that, remember? That's what you were doing in the Bahamas, finding yourself. Well, congratulations. You found yourself. Now you get to live with what you discovered. I gently but firmly moved her hand away from the door and closed it, locked it, walked back to my couch, my pizza, my life that was finally completely 100% mine. Through the window, I watched her stand on my porch for probably 10 minutes, crying and probably hoping I'd change my mind and come back out. But I didn't. I sat on my couch and ate my pizza and watched my TV show and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. She finally gave up and walked back to her car. Not the car we bought together, but some little sedan I didn't recognize. Probably a rental, since her life had apparently fallen apart to the point where she didn't even have reliable transportation anymore. As her taillights disappeared around the corner, I realized something that should have been obvious from the beginning. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd married, the woman I'd spent 6 years building a life with, she was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed in the first place. Maybe she'd just been a performance Clara had put on until she got bored with the script. But you know what? That was okay, because the man I used to be, the one who made excuses for her behavior, who accepted her lies, who begged for scraps of affection and attention, he was gone too. All that remained was freedom. Sweet, simple, uncomplicated freedom. The freedom to eat pizza for dinner without judgment. The freedom to watch whatever I wanted on TV. The freedom to go to bed at night without wondering who my wife was texting. The freedom to wake up in the morning without having to pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I poured myself a drink, a good one, the expensive whiskey I'd been saving for special occasions that never came, and raised it in a toast to my empty living room. Here's to new beginnings, I said, to no one in particular. And to the woman who taught me that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is let someone else walk away. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of possibility.